Our first nationwide holiday in nearly 6 months is upon us. Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our Labour Weekend update. And believe it or not, the outlook for pretty much the rest of October. Can't believe November is almost here. So on the animated wind map today, we've put again the energy side of things. So where you see the brightest shading, that's where you're seeing the most amount of wind energy being created. And this is the squash zone between low pressure out here, light winds, and high pressure out here, also light winds. The squash zone, halfway between low pressure and high pressure, and it's a big northeasterly one. So we're seeing windy weather from the eastern Waikato all the way to Auckland, Northland, and the far north. And it's going to get windier as we go through the weekend for some of those places. But for others further down the country, high pressure means fairly light winds. So we've got some rain on the way. Here is the next 2 days rainfall for northern New Zealand. We'll show you the South Island in a moment. But northern New Zealand around the Bay of Islands, most likely to be seeing the heaviest totals, pushing up around potentially locally 70 millimetres of rain. However, most other places are probably getting about half that amount, around 30, 35 millimetres. And then you get down to the Auckland region, it drops into that 10 to 20 millimetre mark. Just depends on how far south that rain brushes those areas. And it's a similar story in Coromandel Peninsula, but mostly dry elsewhere. Then we get into the South Island and it's typical kind of spring weather really. Eastern areas are mostly dry, western areas are a little bit wet. Nothing too major in there, but if you are going away camping this weekend around Takaka, there'll be a bit of rain, maybe 30 millimetres or so. That's not too problematic, but it is something to just keep an eye on. So this is the forecast as we get into Saturday. There is that squash zone. It's also got the rain around it as well. High pressure parked out to the east, northerly winds coming down, and when you get an airflow like that, that's subtropical, it's going to mean temperatures are above average. So we're going to be seeing places like Southland climbing into the low 20s, same with Otago. In fact, the deep south is likely to be a few degrees warmer than the far north. So that shows you the weird weather pattern we've got at the moment. And it's a different story over in Australia, a cold southerly coming up on that side. As we go into Sunday, low pressure moves further into the New Zealand area. High pressure moves further out to the east. That means it'll be a little bit breezier in some places that have been calmer up until that point, but that should lift your temperatures a little bit further. Those in the north, more windy weather coming in and some rain as well. But as the day progresses, I think that wind will start to ease because that low pressure zone is moving in. This is lunchtime Sunday on the wind maps, and what it's showing you here is the Auckland area getting wind gusts just getting up to gale force, about 60 k's an hour. So we'll be seeing gales just in a few coastal areas of the upper North Island and also eastern Waikato. Don't want to forget about you with a nor'easter. Everyone who lives in places like Te Aroha and Paeroa, Matamata, all those areas know very well what a nor'easter does. So it could be a bit blustery right along the ranges there as well. As we get into Labour Day Monday, that low pressure zone actually falls apart and there's a new one forming further out towards Tasmania. We've got a northerly flow still coming down. It'll be warm now for these eastern areas, which by the way start off this weekend a little bit cooler, and the rain showers continue on the western side, patchy sort of rain up here in the north. Nothing too serious at this stage, but there could still be a localised heavy fall. And then we get into Tuesday. The high pressure system moves out to sea, northerly winds still subtropical for some of you, so not cold, and a new low forming out there in the Tasman Sea. And by Wednesday, another cold front moving into the North Island, although I should probably say cold front because I don't think it's going to be all that cold behind it, and a very weak low pressure zone and more high pressure behind it. Interesting to note that actually over the next week, southern Australia is far more unsettled and spring-like than we are. We've got a lot more in the sense of settled weather, despite the fact it will be a bit windy and wet as we get into this long weekend. That's all from me. Our next video isn't until Wednesday, so we'll see you then. Have a great, safe, long weekend.